Welcome to the show today. Today we have Damir Kusar on the show, and he is in charge of innovation and digital transformation at Axpo. And super excited to have you here. I'm very excited to dive into your story today and hear a little bit more about who you are. So welcome to the show, Damir.
Thank you very much for having me, Daniel.
Yeah, so let's dive right into your story. Tell us a little bit about who is Damir and what's the short story that got us to where we are today.
Well, I don't think that there is really a short story, but I think the whole way since I was young probably brought me where I am currently. So kind of all the journey, all the topics, all the learnings which I made who I am today. So I really have a passion for the technology since I'm a young guy. So that's why I also went to IT. So, and through my professional career, I moved also to agile transformation, now to innovation and digital transformation. But the overall topic is always a little bit similar. It's kind of technology, it's innovation, it's now also, of course, people, human centricity, agility, all these topics. I have really a passion about it. And that's why probably I'm here where I am.
Let's talk a little bit more about this beautiful word, passion. When you say you're passionate about it, what is it that excites you? What is it that drives you inside of these topics?
And the passion is really to combine all these topics which are currently here. So really kind of what I said, the technology, to build something where we can create value for others, also short term, but also long term. I'm excited also into future topics where we are kind of exploring what is coming in the future and what we need to build today kind of to achieve a value also in the future, not just kind of short term or financial value, which many companies maybe have, but it's really the long term value which we can generate with the technology together.
You mentioned an interesting topic I'd like to dive a little bit more into. You mentioned creating value for others. I assume that others are humans, right?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about human-centered innovation. Because I'm always fascinated by, on the one side, how human innovation is, because at the end of the day, still today, innovation is used by humans mostly, not that much by robots, for now at least. Who knows, maybe that's going to change in the future. But for now, innovation is a pretty human topic, I would say. So when we talk about innovation, when we talk about digital innovation, digital products, launching new things, digital strategies, how important is it to focus all of this on the actual human being, in your opinion?
I would say it's the most crucial part, actually. For me, innovation and digital transformation, maybe some other people would define it a little bit differently, but innovation and digital transformation for me is really the human in the center. It's not about the technologies, it's about the human being and the value which we can create for them. And of course, you have a lot of parts where you need to digitalize, really from paperwork to digital work. But still, also there, it's not just that you are digitalizing. You should really keep the human or kind of the value which you're trying to generate when you're transforming that. It's not just that you are digitalizing a process. It should be creating new value. So maybe you need even to kind of restructure it or maybe skip it at all. Maybe it's not needed in the future anymore. And of course, you can start with the technology. So I'm an IT guy, also my background is computer science. I love the technology, but I need always kind of to come back to the human and kind of see what kind of value does it bring. Because sometimes, I mean, maybe the technology is really fancy, but if you're not generating any value, we cannot be successful. We are throwing probably money away into new products and services, but nobody really wants it. So I think in today's world, that's what a product or a business really sets apart. It's not the technology, but it's kind of the customer experience and the value which we are generating. A technology today, everybody can copy it, but all the values and the experience which you are giving to a customer, that's where the value really lies in, also at least in my opinion.
That's really interesting because it gets me to this conversation about sort of like the business value and the customer value in a sense, or like the value for the customer and the value for the business. You know, we could talk about let's say a new digital product that a company's launching, and one of the key reasons behind that new digital product is to make a process a lot more efficient for the company, to reduce costs, for example, or to increase you know, upselling revenues or whatever it is, right? But if the user or the customer doesn't want to use the product, none of these business goals actually get accomplished. And at the same time, I think it's really important to understand the business goals and to focus on the business goals as well. So to me, I find it an interesting balance. What's your experience with these different stakeholders in a sense, and how well these agendas are balanced sometimes?
That's a really hard topic. I think it's not easy to balance that out. So I think it's really important that a company sets a goal or a purpose why they are really existing, and everything what the business is driving from IT, from every process, should follow a certain purpose. I think some American companies or startups are doing that pretty well, that they are focusing on a purpose, and everything what comes along and creates value for the customers, that's good enough. Also, that's good actually. And I think sometimes also in Europe or in Switzerland, many companies are focusing too less on the purpose and the customer centricity, and that's why they are maybe having also fights between divisions why they should do something. But if we can create a value and we are driving something for the business as a business value, then there shouldn't be really a fight. I know maybe that's a little bit utopian or kind of a little bit further into the future, but an ideal business should not have these fights. It should kind of deliver value on their mission or purpose, why the company really exists.
I mean, that's really, really interesting what you just talked about, because what I heard is basically where business agenda and customer agenda come together is purpose. They actually come together in purpose, so to say, or ideally it starts with purpose and then these are more aligned, because I find that really interesting. I haven't really thought about it exactly in this way before, but it makes a lot of sense, because if purpose is the common ground, it actually makes sense that whatever you create on purpose creates business value and customer value at the same time, maybe at different levels on the spectrum, but it always considers both, because both are an integral part of the purpose.
Absolutely. And the other thing what you're getting as well is, I mean, today you have a really kind of fight for talents, and the millennials are looking for companies, or more often for companies which have a purpose or kind of a social or environmental commitment, for example. And if you have such a purpose where you can be identified by yourself, so you're automatically getting more intrinsic motivation when you have all the structures inside. So you don't really have to manage it in the old way, so you can really adjust your business structure into the new world. So you have automatically intrinsic motivated people which are happy to build something for the customer. So you have both happy customers, happy employees.
Yeah, that's actually a great connector, because if you build it on purpose, then it almost kind of starts with the employees, the people inside of the organization. If they're connected to purpose, it's more likely that they'll create business value and customer value at the same time, because they are very connected to the purpose. Very, very interesting conversation. Now, I'd like to get a little bit more practical, because I love utopian conversations very much, but then there's also, you know, the actual real world outside. So I'd love to talk a little bit more practical. So if it is so important to focus innovation on the human being, how do we actually do that? Is there a process that we can use? Is there Like, are there any principles, best practices, or habits, or I don't know what you have in your sleeve? What's your perspective on that? How can we actually go about that?
Yeah, actually, I said before, you could start with the technology, but you should always come back to the human being. So you really need to understand what the current problems of the customers are. It's not that you know it. I mean, even if you think you know it, you probably don't know. So good tools are interviews. That's a very cheap one. Actually, you can talk to them and figure out what really the pain points are. Um, let's say other companies have also data which they are using. So they are really analyzing how the products are used and which parts of the products are more used than others so that you can really do the decisions. I don't think that it's valuable that you really ask what they want, but you really should understand where the pain points are, that you're really building good products and services for them. And there, of course, there are a lot of tools which you can use also to describe that. For example, the customer profile, which Alex Osterwalder created in his business model canvas, or value proposition design. But there are also other personas, is for example also an options. Even I don't like really the personas. I like more the customer profile. That's kind of a personal thing, and it's really kind of to create the empathy map, the customer journey, where you can improve. And when you're really focused on the customers, it's maybe hard to say, it's maybe strange to say, but you will succeed actually if you are putting the customers into the focus, and if you're killing products which nobody uses. I mean, Google, for example, is killing products all the time because probably they are not used. Amazon is calling themselves that they're really customer obsessed, so they're really doing everything that the customer is happy. But we don't also have to look far away. I mean, Digitech is also kind of a really customer obsessed company. So also with their filters which you can use and all these transparent comments which are there. So they are a community. So they are building with the customers together. It's not that you are going into a dark room, you're producing something, and 3 years later you're pushing it. No, it's really a co-creation with your customers. And I think that's also a way to succeed with in the digital world, so that you really don't be a copycat, or you can't be copied really easily. You need your customers and your community to build together valuable products.
I love that. Thanks for sharing. I mean, that's a lot of good stuff in there, a lot of practical stuff as well. Coming to another topic of measurement, like, how do you know when you're a customer-centric company? like how do you know? Is there something that happens so you can say, oh, if this happens, we are actually a customer-centric company? Or are there like super specific measurements that exist? Or how do you know if you're a customer-centric company?
Tricky question, I would say, but it's a little bit that you are deciding that you want to do, that you want to be a customer-centric company. I think that's the first start, that you really want to start there. So I don't think that you're really becoming one if you're not going that road. And then, of course, you will figure out on the journey if you are really interacting with your customers. I said before, co-creation, you're doing the interviews, you're understanding your customers, and you're getting valuable feedback, and then also maybe good reviews. Of course, all this data which you can analyze. You probably will figure out that sooner or later you are there, that you are a customer-centric company when you're building products where the value is for the customers. Of course, it has to be also valuable for the business. It can't just cost you a lot of money and create value for your customers, and then the business is maybe going broke then when you don't have or earning money. But some products are also complementary to other products. So sometimes maybe you're not earning money, but you're creating an additional value so that customers are jumping up to the other product. I probably can't say really that you're saying now you are a really customer-centric company, but it's a journey where it brings you there.
I mean, I love what you said, because I think it's so true. Like, first of all, like, how do you become more customer centric company? Step one, decide that you want to become one.
Easy.
Like, yeah, I mean, it sounds so weird, right? And so obvious, but it's true. And because I think if the motivation is it's a trend, or if the motivation is everybody else is doing it, so we have to go there too. It's not authentic. It's not real. Nobody's going to believe that you really want to become more customer centric, just because you have to, just because everybody else does it. So I really believe that this step one is incredibly important, and it's probably also the moment when you actually become customer centric, because there's probably no destination. Like in all the important good stuff, there's no destination. You know, it's like, you know, figuring out your purpose or whatever. There's no destination there. It's similar to this topic, customer centricity. There is no destination. It's a journey. You can always grow more. There is no ultimate destination in a sense. So there may be milestones, but I don't believe there's an ultimate destination. And in this case, I find it even more important to actually make that decision, because I believe in this specific area. When you make a decision and you commit to it and it's authentic, that's the moment when you become customer centric. That's the moment when the journey starts, but it's also the moment when the good stuff starts to happen, in a sense. Yeah.
I think that's very nice what you're saying, the authenticity, that people are believing that you're really customer centric and that you're trying to create value for them. I think when the customers are believing that, then it's also a good point that you're on the right way.
Yeah, you know, because I think it's such an important topic, because it's like the same with values. You know, these are our core values of the company, you know, because we brainstormed them at a 3-day management retreat. It's like, well done. Great, you know, but nobody's committed. Nobody believes you anyway, because it's just, you know, it's just a stunt that you did because you had to. I mean, you know, that's a lot
Then
of
you need to
wasted
live.
money.
I mean, you need to live also these values. I mean, you just saying you want to become a customer centric company, it's not enough. So you need to change also your organization, the mindset, but also enable your employees that they really can work for the customer, doing also decisions where they can. Also, it's not that everybody should be decided from the top. If a team figures out something, if they could do it better, they should have the power, the empowerment to decide, and not that everything has to be discussed over 3 rounds until it's already over before it's making sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. The whole organization eventually has to adjust to. I mean, you know, because if a big part of the purpose is being customer centric, you know, of course, the entire organization needs to adjust to that change, or to that development, or to that evolution. Absolutely. Now, I want to talk a little bit about leadership, or specifically actually communication, because I find it a really interesting topic, specifically when it comes to change, when it comes to doing new stuff, maybe stuff that has never been done before, going into new territory, or just like, yeah, innovating in a sense, but just like transforming an organization, going to areas where maybe there's very little or no experience. First of all, in situations like that, how do you get people on board? Like, how do you actually communicate? Like, on the one side, you know, people in the team, but then also the board, or, you know, somebody from the management. How do you get people on board for change or for new stuff?
I would say there are a lot of dimensions depending on where you're starting, for example. So if you're kind of in a software department, there you probably don't need much of really convince them for some changes. I think that's a little bit in the mindset because they're working usually agile, and so they are a little bit into it. But if you're doing a bigger transformation, it's really crucial that you are doing that with the people together, that you're really explaining transparently what is going on and why we have to do something. And probably a lot of people fear to lose a job if you're, for example, doing that we are digitalizing or using robotics for certain parts of the jobs. So, but we really need kind of to show what is the benefit and what kind of the benefit for the employee can be. The target should not be that we are firing the people, but that we are using the people or the employees to create in a different way value, so that they are getting free with certain tasks, so that they have more time during the day to innovate, let's say. But it's really crucial that you're transparently talking with them and showing and taking the fear away, so that you really can convince them that it's a good thing that they are on board. Because if you can't do that, then you will always have some people which are kind of manipulating or kind of trying kind of to say, no, that's not good. But you really need kind of the people to go along with you. So it's not always easy, so it probably needs also some time, but the transparency and the openness to talk with them and show where the road is going, not hiding anything, I think that's a really good start. And then during the journey, every company is a little bit different, every project is a little bit different. So it's like we had before, the customer centricity. Here you have customers as well when you're doing the transformation. So the customers are your employees. So listen to them and see how you can help them, that your transformation is really successful. If you're just putting it top down, that you say you have to, then you can do that, but it's probably not the sustainable way how you are bringing your company to success. It's not easy. I don't think that there is really a blueprint, but as you mentioned, communication is really key, and the transparency and openness to your employee, that's kind of a must. And then you need to adapt where the journey is going.
Yeah, I love what you said, because it goes a lot into the why, just explaining and reaffirming the why and again and again. And why is this, aligned with our bigger purpose and our vision, and why is this good for the business, and why is this good for the customer, and why is this good for you, and and how is it going to make your job easier, and how is and then it's different how it's going to make this person's job easier than it is how it's going to make this person's job easier. It's I love that. It's great insights. And then I want to go into one more topic, which is on the journey. We talked a little bit about it, but I want to go more into the details there. But so the journey starts, it takes off with a big bang. It's all awesome and it's all great and everybody's excited. And then stuff goes wrong, and then timelines are missed, and then stuff is not happening the way we wanted. How do you keep people engaged along the way? To make, especially when stuff just doesn't go the way that was planned, because that's normal, right? But then it's not nice, because we expect that things go the way we want them. And how do you keep people engaged?
I think, yeah, that's something people are thinking kind of also a little bit. I call that now a little bit old world, that everything needs to be successful, and we are not allowed to make some errors. But I think in the new culture, in the new way of working, the learning culture, sorry, I like to call it learning culture instead of the failure culture, because you should always learn if something does not go as expected. I mean, if you're looking, not every idea can be successful, but we need to learn why the idea failed or the product failed. And if we know that, I mean, then it's not to blame anybody, because it's good that people have ideas, and we should celebrate also the learning that we created something and it failed, because maybe it's not the right time today, but maybe in a year we can use that learnings again. And it's a little bit really a cultural topic, that the people are not getting or not thinking bad of that process. So, they failed now 2 times, and now I fear, for example, getting fired because my 2 projects were not successful. That's really a cultural aspect that we need to transform the companies, that this is allowed. And if you're showing them 1, 2, or 3 times that's absolutely okay, but we learned that maybe that 4th product will be a success, then you clearly show that you are valuing all these new innovative things, or kind of products and services, the process. But that's really a little bit a longer journey that you're going there, that this is probably accepted. Some companies are quicker with that, some companies take a little bit longer, but it's really the culture which you're building up the learning culture. That should be kind of that you are keeping the people engaged. Also giving something that you are showing thankfulness that they participated maybe in an idea campaign or in an innovation campaign, and saying, look, maybe the reasons why we didn't choose your idea for the next phase is because of that. And if the reasons are plausible, I think then it's not forbidden that you can apply for the next time again. It's really kind of showing also the thankfulness that they are running with you all these topics or innovations, even if sometimes they fail. But it's not really a failing for me, it's kind of a learning.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big topic, failing and learning. And it's also kind of an expectation topic, right? Because if the expectation is, you know, it's going to go as planned in the time and budget as planned, that's tricky, right? If everybody expects it to happen that way and then something else happens, that's really tricky, because that's when people get really off track, because, you know, expectations are not met. So I don't trust the process anymore. I don't trust the project anymore. So expectations, I think, is an interesting topic as well, which is not always easy. You know, what are you going to say? I mean, you know, we're actually going to expect that this is going to fail. If we're going to succeed, that's going to be awesome, but it's probably more likely that it's going to go down the drain, but you're still going to be on board. Of course, that's not how you communicate, but I think it's very important to be very transparent and open in that communication, right? Because otherwise it gets really, really tricky, as you said. There's one more question that I have, which is ways more further into the future and ways more up in the sky, but I always love to ask it. So let's imagine you're sitting in your rocking chair now and you're 80 years old and you're looking back at your life and you're seeing all the great things that happened and all the challenges you had, but you're also seeing how things have changed over those many, many, many years. Now, looking back from that moment, what is something that you would really love to see changed? Maybe something in the world, maybe something in business, maybe something in technology, whatever it may be. But what is something that you'd really love to see as a change?
Yeah, some people will call me that I'm optimist, but I like to be optimistic. But a sustainable world, and that would be something I would like to look back and see that it happens. Not just kind of that you're saying everything has to be also kind of green economy or so, but also in sustainable for the humanity, social life, because I mean robotics and AI will transform the workforce heavily in the next decade. So what are we going to do with all these people? So I guess also that we will have some space technologies, maybe also space travel. So opportunities will arise for the humanity. But I think in general, what the big topic, maybe it's not the right word, but the sustainability of our world would be kind of something I would like to look back and see.
I love that. I love that very much. It's visionary and practical at the same time. I love it very much. Hey, thank you so much, Damir. I really appreciate being on the show here, for having you and having those great conversations and deep dives. Thank you for being here, Damir. Appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.